Barely Research Facts is a fact-based podcast brought to you by Art Now Thus, an experiential arts agency based out of Mumbai. Each episode, we pick a word at random, dive into it, and see what it brings to us. We are your hosts. My name is Ragini, and this is Shar. Let's go! Hi, and welcome back to yet another episode of Barely Research Facts. We're back, guys. We're back.
Yay, we're back.
Yay! Okay, today's word is echo.
Mm-hmm.
And
I loved it.
Yeah, I did
Just sliding that in there before you can start.
too. Just in case I was about to say something to the contrary. No, I loved it too. It was great fun. So, while I was researching it, I'm just going to jump right in with this. But apparently, echo is also a play in Bridge. Did you know that? Like the card game Bridge.
No.
Echo is the name of
I
play.
have no knowledge of Bridge.
Same. Because it even tells you what the play is, and it just totally went over my head, so I'm not even going to attempt it. But apparently echo is... so beyond just the echo of the sound echo that we're familiar with, it's also if you play Bridge, then you're familiar with another kind of echo. Yeah, really putting all kinds of information just out there into the world.
Connecting all the dots for everyone. Do you play Bridge? No, I don't. Well, too bad. Here's something called echo. It's a play in Bridge. Yeah.
Okay, so coming to the myth of echo and about why an echo is called an echo. It's quite lovely, actually.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's based in Greek mythology. And the story goes that Zeus was known for sort of coveting with the females quite a bit. And Echo was a mountain nymph. And Zeus used to hang out with Echo and her friends and other nymphs. And every time, just like, everyday things gods do. And then Hera, who was Zeus's wife, and was also known to be really vengeful. And
I wonder why.
I wonder why. I mean, it's not like he was doing anything. But then she came to catch Zeus in what he was doing. And every time she would go and start looking for him, Echo would come and sort of sideline her by just talking to her about everything under the sun and sort of just, casually distract her and send her away. And when Hera found out, clever. I mean, quite
ballsy.
Quite the gift of the gab. But one day, Hera found out. And she was so pissed off at Echo that, and I'll come back to my opinions on the story in a bit.
Okay.
But one day, Hera found out and she cursed Echo. So the curse was basically that if you like to talk so much, I'm going to let you can talk as much as you want, but you can't say anything new. You can only repeat the last words of what anyone else says.
Ooh, tricky. I'd make it into a game.
Yeah, like the shadow game. That really annoying game kids play.
Yeah, she'd be the most annoying person. Oh, that is a terrible curse to do to someone.
Yeah, but what I don't understand is why didn't Hera just curse Zeus? Like, he was the one who was pissing her off. Nobody. But I guess, the woman who's
it's classic, isn't it? Not punishing the man, not punishing the perpetrator of the crime, but punishing the other person.
The messenger of the crime.
Yeah.
Courier of the crime.
Or the co-participant, really.
Okay, Echo's looking worse and worse as well.
Yeah, slowly we're going to get to she deserved it.
Anyway, Echo then goes on to fall in love with Narcissus. The story has so much resonance with millennial culture. But she goes on to fall in love with a narcissistic young man called Narcissus, whom she couldn't talk to because of the curse, and so he was completely uninterested in her. Also, side note, Narcissus then fell in love with his own reflection and died because he couldn't pull himself away from the water.
To eat and drink and
he literally wasted away with vanity.
Oh, so what we learn is that...
take a break from looking at yourself every now and then.
And little Echo has a type.
And then Echo basically pined away because her love was rejected and she faded. And so, which is why when you have an echo, it repeats the last words of what you say and then it fades away. And that's the myth of echo.
Oh.
Yeah. Quite sweet, actually, in some way, I guess. If we hadn't just dissected it as much as we did. But
speaking of mythology related to, natural phenomenon, when I was going through facts related to echoes, I discovered something called Fingal's Cave. It's in Scotland.
Okay.
It's on an uninhabited island called Staffa. And it's a sea cave, basically. And so if you'd imagine how scary or beautiful it could look, it's both those things. But what's more interesting about this particular cave is that it was carved from lava flow, and the acoustics of the cave is what I'm building up to, basically. It's contributed to by the basalt columns that make up the structure inside and on the outside. If you look at it, it looks almost like something out of Star Trek or like a forgotten world from Star Trek, because the columns are they look so purposefully placed. They look man-made. They could be like something like an art installation that someone made in like, I don't know, like a modern museum somewhere. But it's not. They're completely naturally formed, and they're made of basalt, and they contribute to the name that the cave is given, which is Cave of Melody. So, yeah, because it's got an otherworldly, eerie way of reflecting the sound back to you when you make any noises inside it, and you have to visit it by boat. So you row inside, if you imagine, this sea cave. You have this beautiful view of like just endless ocean when you're inside it. And if you make a noise, the arched roof causes like this cacophony of like noise and echo back at you, as well as the ocean, the waves moving in and out, that also adds to it. I mean, I've seen a couple of videos. Obviously, experiencing it in person would be next level. So it's also it's also likened to cathedrals because of the way that cathedrals are built to contribute to acoustics, like of performances or prayers or whatever, causes that reverence. So speaking of reverence, and a story associated with this is to do with Felix Mendelsohn. He was a German composer, and he was like a pianist, an organist, and many other ists, and a conductor. So an as well. So he was in the early 1800s, around 1830, I think. He was on a tour of Scotland, and he went to this cave, to Fingal's cave, and the acoustics of it, the experience that he had over there, prompted him to immediately jot down like the first lines of an overture, which later became this fully formed piece that is now famous. It's called Fingal's Cave.
Okay.
So he wrote down on a postcard the notes and sent it to his sister, and they have that preserved, and they have the piece itself. So Fingal's Cave contributed to this beautiful classical piece.
Oh, and can you listen to it online?
You can, and we will include the link to it.
Yes, we will.
In fact, here's a 10-second clip.
Wow, that was amazing. Oh, wow. I kind of really want to listen to the whole thing now. So, continuing in the realm of myths around echoes, apparently there is a much quoted scientific myth that says a duck's quack does not echo. But
I think I've heard that.
Yeah, but because we always unravel the truth in this podcast, that does echo.
Oh, okay.
Imagine.
Okay,
yeah,
my life has completely changed.
Okay, I thought so. Apparently a duck's quack does echo, but it's usually too quiet to hear a duck's quack echo, and so you just don't hear the echo. That's one logic behind it. The other reasoning is that ducks don't usually quack near reflecting surfaces. Now, I haven't really understood how that works, because I'm just thinking that unless ducks make an effort to only quack in the middle of a lake, but if they're at the edge of a lake, and they'll just be like, no shit.
I'm trying to envision a duck in a cave, and honestly, I can't. So I'm going to say I believe it.
Okay, but what if the duck is in a lake with a mountain right next to the lake, and the duck is going quack quack? It's just going
What if he's in Fingal's cave?
Yeah.
I think someone needs to get on this. Put a duck in Fingal's cave, make it quack.
So someone is on this, by the way. So there is a researcher called Professor Trevor Cox, who's at the Acoustic Research Center at Salford's University. And the reason why he stood out, honestly, there were, when I was researching for this podcast, I would just see a bunch of stuff. And suddenly it just occurred to me that a lot of my studies had Professor Trevor Cox attributed to them.
Oh.
And so I actually went and researched Professor Trevor Cox, and he's kind of cool, but we'll come back to him slightly later with another fact that he has uncovered. Well, not another fact that he's uncovered, but something cool that he did, which is a fact that I will uncover at this podcast.
I mean, that's a hook if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. Pretty good at selling it.
Okay, so when I say the word echolocate, Ragini, what do you think of?
I think
what
of
kind of creature does it?
dolphins. I know dolphins echolocate.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I know bats echolocate as well.
Yes, good job. You're rattling through the list I have. So you might want to stop right now so I have something to say. I'm joking. So bats, whales, dolphins, a couple of birds, nocturnal birds, and some shrews as well.
Some shoes.
Shrews, yeah.
Oh, some shoes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I heard some shoes.
And we can add to this list a human man called Daniel Kish.
Who echolocates.
He sort of uses the principles of echolocating to see, basically. So he's blind, this gentleman, and he's developed his own method of generating vocal clicks. And people probably have seen this before, where you see a blind person using their stick to tap the ground. So that's also sort of a form of echolocation. It's not only to do with like, oh, there's a step here, but also the reflection of the noise from the clicking coming back tells you what's in front of you. So basically he's pioneered this sort of method of sight. He teaches it to small groups and does, publicity to like make it known about this method. So since he was very young, he has been the foremost proponent of this vocal clicking method. He says when people echolocate, it's not like now they can see again, but echolocation does provide information about the space that's around people that would otherwise sort of go unnoticed. And obviously to people without vision, it's integral that they have as much information as they can to process what to do next. It allows them to orient themselves. And I liked what he called it. He called it an acoustic flashlight.
Oh.
So I wanted to read to you a tiny bit. So this is all Daniel Kish. This is quoted from him. He's walking through his neighborhood, and this is what he has to say based on his echolocation.
Okay.
I'm walking through my neighborhood on the phone with you. Right now, I'm passing by a neighbor's house, and she's got a lot of trees surrounding her house. It's very treed and hedged and heavily bushed. It's very fuzzy. It's kind of soft. It's kind of wispy. Foliage has a particular effect, a particular signature. It puts out a very specific image. I can tell you that someone has done a lot of work on her yard because her tree line and hedge line are thinned out. Now I'm aware of the fencing behind the tree line, which I always knew was there, but now it's much more clear because the tree line is more transparent acoustically. But, I have also 1 year to a phone. Some of it's really clear and crisp. Some of it's probability and some of it's context. Some of it, you don't really care what it is. It's just there. It's to be avoided. Some of it, I know I'll recognize if I come back past it again. And then some of it, I can actually sit and draw for you. End quote.
Wow.
It gave me tingles, this description.
God. Wow, he's more observant than I am.
Yeah, I think that's the case with anybody who has
a sense lesser than...
a loss or partial control of anything.
I don't think I'd ever notice anyone's, like both eyes intact, I would notice someone's lawn has recently been manicured. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Also, I wouldn't probably remember. Like, we had a neighbor put up a fence recently and I was like, was that always there? And Dina's like, no, it wasn't. It's huge. How did you not notice? So yeah, it's a combination of the reflection of the sound as well as context and memory that he uses. Amazing.
Very, very wow. Quite humbling as well, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like we should be a little ashamed at this point. Okay. Okay, so a lot of this research just led me to a lot of the world's most echoes. So most famous echoes, oddest echoes, longest echoes. They're quite cool, actually. Like a lot of the stuff around just how people have, the kinds of echoes that people have discovered is quite interesting.
Mm.
What I also realized is that a lot of echoes actually are also just tied in with they're just incredibly strange sound anomalies. So not all echoes always just reflect off a surface and then come back and you can hear it and then you can hear it fade out. There's one in particular that really stood out to me. It is at the El Castillo Temple in Mexico. It's a temple from the Mayan civilization, so it's built sometime between the 9th and the 12th centuries. It's a step pyramid. And while archaeologists are continuing to learn about the history of Mayan people and their daily lives, one thing that still has remained a mystery is about a particular sound anomaly that occurs around this temple. If there is a person standing in the field facing the exterior steps of the temple, and if they clap their hands, the sound reverberates, but it comes back to them as not as a clap, but as a sound that is probably similar to a bird chirping.
What?
Yeah, so that's quite cool. And there are a couple more of these. I'll come back to them slightly later. But this was quite cool. This is actually probably one of the oddest echoes in the world.
Wow.
We'll make you listen to it right here. Okay, so that is the oddest echo. There is also the world's longest echo, and this is where Trevor Cox makes an appearance again. The world's longest echo was again in Scotland, I think. So it's in a man-made structure. It is in an old oil storage tank that was buried in the hard rock of a hillside in the Scottish Highlands. The duration of the echo is an amazing 112 seconds, so it's almost a 2-minute long echo.
Wow.
And to be noted, the previous record for the longest echo was 15 seconds.
Wow, it really smashed that record.
Yeah,
it's like without a doubt.
And the echo test was conducted by Alan Kilpatrick, who was an expert in the history of that particular oil storage tank facility, and Trevor Cox once again.
Wow, he gets around in the world of acoustics, doesn't he?
He really does, actually, yeah. Yeah, he really, and so one of the things, he's actually really interested in sound, and he has an interest in music. So one of the things that he did mention is that the particular kind of echo that you get by being inside that oil storage facility could create solo harmonies. So if someone were to stand there and just his experience of it, just the way you would talk into that facility and, you had the echo coming back to you for that longer period, a solo musician could create harmonies.
Wow. Yeah, a minute-long song. Or actually forever.
Yeah.
What am I saying? It repeats back to you. Cool.
Apart from setting the Guinness World Record for the longest echo, Trevor Cox at one point of time also held the Guinness World Record for owning the world's largest whoopee cushion. So completely related, of course.
You know what? I want to meet this man. He sounds like a serious but whimsical man.
Yes, because he does a duck squawk echo, was part of a worldwide news coverage that he covered as a story, along with what is the worst sound in the world and what is the world's scariest scream. Spoiler alert, the worst sound in the world is the sound of vomit, apparently.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine that.
But close third is the sound of a baby crying.
Yeah.
Which I think I can get on board with.
You know what? We'll spare you guys. We won't play either of those sounds right now.
Yeah.
So in my quest to look for acoustically interesting places, I found one that I've been to in India, and I think you probably have been to as well. It's the Goalkonda Fort.
Yes, I have.
I think most people really have by now, haven't they? Especially if they've
From India.
Yeah. Not to make assumptions. So the Goalkonda Fort, for people who don't know, it's in Hyderabad in India. I've been there. My sister lives there, in fact, still.
In the Goalkonda Fort?
Yep. Yep. Inside it.
Yeah, that's a convenient
It's a good investment, I think, on her part. So, my sister and brother-in-law live in Hyderabad. The Goalkonda Fort was built between 1518 and 1580. And it's classed as an acoustic marvel. It just showcases the architectural genius that people had at the time. If you're standing inside the grand portico, the hall right under the dome of the fort, you can see and hear people clapping if you're visiting there, and it's because of this reason. What it does is demonstrates the building's technologically advanced acoustics. So you can also travel up to the Bala Hisar Pavilion, and you can hear the sound of a clap coming from the grand portico, which is almost a mile away.
Wow.
It carries that far. And, you can hear, it's not just the sound of a sharp sound like clapping, which is very defined. You can also hear whispering, the swishing of clothes.
All the way a mile away?
You can hear echoes of it.
Wow.
And this was made possible due to a series of arches that were built in diminishing size on one side of the grand portico. So this design and construction of the arches, it helps to compress the sound waves that are created under the dome, and then it bounces the sound waves back, amplified enough to reach a distance of, up to a mile. If the layout of the arches helps to create an echo, the materials used in their construction, it ensured their long distance travel. So obviously the kind of material that sound is bouncing off matters. So something like, say, fabric would dull reflections of sound, but what they used were like reflective material like shards of clay pots and pans and things like that. So they knew.
So this was deliberate. They wanted it to...
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's meant to amplify the sounds that are within the grand portico. And one of the reasons, you'd want to ask, obviously you knew that the Mughals created these phenomenal structures because they just did, But there was also a reason. It's said that in the 16th century, Goalkonda, because it was like, the center of diamond trade, the Kohinoor was housed there for a while, as well as the Nasak diamond. So in order to ensure the security of these precious items, I'm sure there were many more that have been lost to history and time. The fort was built on a granite hill that is 400 feet high, and the acoustic engineering obviously is added to this measure of security. Because if you could hear someone who, you knew someone wasn't supposed to be in the round domed area, you'd be like, hey, is Jeff in there? Why is Jeff looking at the Kohinoor without permission?
Hello, Jeff.
Jeff's back. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I think I would have probably heard all of this in the guided tour, but just retracing my steps was really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating.
And now, going into odd things related to echoes, Ragini, do you want to?
I do. So there is Lake George in New York. At Lake George, there is a hand-drawn map of the lake itself, and there is a cross, there's an X that gets made. And apparently if you stand on that X and you face the lake and you start shouting, you will hear your own voice echo back to you as if it's really far away. So you'll really hear like a slight tinny. Of course, everybody else will hear you scream and shout like a maniac, but you will just be fine.
I'm sure there's that guy who's not at all ashamed to do it. And I will happily watch
I think most people there. I think it's encouraged at Lake George. Then there is another, the absolute reverse of that is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And they kind of take themselves quite seriously because they also call themselves the center of the universe.
Aww.
At this particular point, yeah. So
that's cool. I wish I had the confidence to do that.
This is where I live. This is the center of the universe.
Yeah.
But there is a spot in downtown Tulsa that is marked by a small concrete circle in the middle of a larger circle of bricks. This is the center of the universe. And if you stand at the center of the universe and you make a noise, like even a soft noise, your own voice is echoed back to you much louder than it was made. And again, nobody outside of this can hear you. But
cool.
I can hear the echo. And so legend has it, and I don't believe this, but legend has it that a foghorn could be going off in the center of the circle and those outside would not hear it.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like it's a bit of an exaggeration, and I feel like they might have a tendency to exaggerate a little bit, but it's a cool story. Okay, so coming on to what is the last factor what we're talking about, but it also leads into something very cool. So, we know that sound echoes, right? Because that's what we've talked about all of this episode. So now we obviously know that sound echoes.
Wait, what does sound do again?
Aren't we funny? Okay. So, but there is also a phenomena called light echoes. Now, light echoes is basically... Okay, I'm going to try very hard to explain this. This is not my forte or at all, but I'm powering through. So when we look outward into space, what we're effectively doing is we're looking backwards in time, right? Any light that we see in space has taken a while to reach us because light takes time to travel to a point where it's visible to us on Earth. We know that. And sometimes light can be absorbed, reflected, and re-emitted by gas and dust, and that gives us a second look at the same light. And these are called light echoes, all right? And so while a sound echo, for example, can be used so radars use sound echoes and they help people navigate. Similarly, light echoes allow astronomers a way to understand the universe around us. Now, why this is very important to the next fact is because back in the 1960s, two astronomers discovered what they believe is the pale echo of the universe, which basically means that they discovered a remnant of the Big Bang.
Cool. It blows my mind a bit.
It really does. And it's just always been really fascinating to me to see how people piece stuff like this together.
Yeah.
And even though I understand very little of it, but my in-depth research has pulled through once again.
I do think my brain just like contracts a bit.
Comprehends.
Yeah, it just hurts a bit when I have to consider the scale of the universe. Sorry, continue.
Well, the universe at one point was an extremely hot magma, and it was so condensed that it formed a milky fog through which any light particles were unable to propagate.
Okay.
But after about 300,000 years or something, it expanded and it cooled sufficiently for those light particles to begin to start moving around. And there was a gigantic flash of light that spread through the space, and it began a long journey. And this flash of light is what they now call the pale echo of the universe. That was discovered in 1964 by two scientists in New Jersey, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson. So they intercepted this light so much by chance that what they thought they had discovered was pigeon droppings in their equipment.
What?
And then so they went and they cleaned up their radio telescope, and they realized that no, what they had picked up was waves from this primordial light, and it had deformed and cooled over a very long journey through space, and it had reached Earth in the form of this very weak radio signal. And the beginnings of this discovery was via them. However, it took 40 years after that for them to actually confirm this observation. And on 30th June 2001, there was a WMAP probe that was launched into an orbit 1.5 million kilometers away from the Earth in order to analyze this relic radiation and confirm the observation.
Wow.
And so basically what they saw was a baby picture of the universe, is how they describe it actually. I think that's quite cute.
Oh, it's so cute. I haven't even seen it and I'm saying it's so cute. It's amazing.
All right, and that's the last fact for the day today.
Wow. I think I've been taken on a journey from mythology to astronomy. I think I need a bit of a break and a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Okay. So...
Oh, very British.
You probably need one as well. So we'll see you
next time
in our next episode.
Bye.
See you.
That's it for today. Thank you for listening in. Our episode this week was edited by Payal Rathore. Music for the episode is by Charita Arora. If you liked the episode, if you have any feedback about the episode, or if you'd like to suggest a word that we could explore, write into us. We would love to hear from you. We're on Instagram at Barely Research Facts. You could also reach out to us on our website at www.artnowdas.in. We'll see you next time.